The human engineer Mason thought it was just another regular workday, until he noticed the silent alien girl in a dirty hoodie moving crates like a machine. Why was she avoiding eye contact with everyone? Why did her ID scan give no results? He didn't know until she looked up. Dock 17 was always loud, filled with shouts, engine noise, and heavy cargo lifts rolling over metal floors. Mason liked it that way, busy, noisy, and predictable. He had worked here for almost 5 years, maintaining the landing platforms, refueling freighters, and repairing broken loaders. He knew every worker, every face, and every shift schedule by memory. So when he saw the new girl near Storage Bay 12, something felt off. She wore a torn gray hoodie, her face hidden deep in the shadow of the hood. She moved quickly and quietly, carrying crates that looked far too heavy for her thin arms. Not even a sound came from her. No sighs, no grunts, no talking. She didn't wear the standard orange work jacket that all cargo staff were required to wear. Mason paused, watching her lift a steel box onto a high rack without help. It wasn't normal. Even the strongest dock workers struggled with those crates. "Hey," Mason called out, walking toward her. "You new here? What's your ID number?" The girl didn't reply. Instead, she turned slightly away from him and continued stacking another crate, faster now. Mason frowned and pulled out his data scanner, pointing it at the barcode on her arm sleeve. The device beeped twice. Red. "No record found," the screen flashed. Unregistered individual. Mason's heart skipped a beat. Unregistered workers were serious trouble. They could be smugglers, spies, or worse, escaped test subjects from illegal labs. He looked around, but no security was near. "Listen," he said more softly. "I don't want trouble, but you're not supposed to be here." Finally, the girl stopped moving. She stood there, still and quiet, then turned her head just a little for a second. Mason saw a shimmer of strange violet skin under her hood. Then it was gone, hidden again. Before he could say more, the girl dropped the crate and ran. She moved fast, too fast. She slipped between loaders, ducked under a moving hover cart, and disappeared into the maze of supply corridors. "Security!" Mason shouted, pressing the alert button on his wristpad. "We've got an unknown runner, possibly dangerous." But by the time the drones arrived, she was already gone. That night, Mason sat in his trailer, staring at the scanner report. No one else had seen her, and the security footage strangely didn't show anything useful, just static and blurry shadows where she should have been. The guards dismissed it, saying it was probably just a data ghost, a glitch, but Mason knew what he saw. And then came the knock. It was soft, barely there, but enough to make Mason stand. He opened the metal door slowly, and there she was. The same hoodie, the same silent presence. She stood outside in the dark, eyes hidden, arms crossed over her chest. "How did you find me?" he asked, half afraid, half curious. "I saw you didn't report me," she said, her voice low and clear. It wasn't robotic, it was gentle, almost musical. "I need your help," she added. "Please." "Who are you?" Mason asked, stepping outside, looking around to make sure no one else was watching. She looked up, just enough for him to see the glow of her eyes, bright silver with rings like stars inside them. "I can't tell you everything yet," she whispered, "but I'm not here to steal or hurt anyone." She glanced toward the warehouse in the distance. "Something dangerous is being hidden in those crates at Dock 17. Mason was silent, confused, unsure. "Then why run?" he asked. "Why hide like this?" "Because if they know who I am," she said, pulling back her hood slowly, "they'll try to erase me." Underneath the hoodie was a girl who looked part human, part something else. Her skin was glowing faint purple, with lines of bioluminescence along her temples. Her hair floated slightly as if underwater, and her face was young, afraid, and intelligent. Mason stared, lost for words. He had never seen anyone like her before. She didn't look dangerous. She looked like someone running for her life. Before he could speak, she stepped back and whispered, "They'll be tracking this place soon." She handed him a tiny glowing crystal and said, when you're ready to know the truth. Break this." Then she vanished into the night, leaving behind only silence and questions. Mason stood there, holding the crystal, wondering what kind of storm he had just stepped into. And who exactly the girl at Dock 17 really was. Mason, a human engineer at Dock 17, spots a strange alien girl in a hoodie who doesn't appear in any system. After she vanishes into the night, she returns briefly to warn him about dangerous crates and gives him a glowing crystal. She tells him, "Break this when you're ready to know the truth," and disappears. Mason couldn't sleep. The glowing crystal sat on his workbench, humming softly like it was alive. He didn't understand what it was or who that girl really was. But something about her eyes had stayed in his mind. They weren't the eyes of a criminal. They were the eyes of someone running from something dark, something powerful. By morning, he made up his mind. He got dressed, grabbed the crystal, and went back to Dock 17 before his shift officially started. The place was quiet, the loading bots still idle, and the first shuttle of the day hadn't landed yet. He moved carefully towards Storage Bay 12, the area the girl had warned him about. There were crates stacked to the ceiling, just like always, but now they looked different to him, suspicious. Too clean, too sealed. He crouched near one of the larger ones and scanned the barcode. It showed it was filled with fusion coil stabilizers, standard cargo. Nothing dangerous, but Mason wasn't convinced. He looked around, then reached into his belt and pulled out a lock override tool he had used 100 times for maintenance access. With a low buzz, he cracked the crate open just slightly. A hiss of cold air escaped, and inside, instead of fusion coils, he saw metal cylinders marked with biohazard and I-core warnings. His stomach dropped. These weren't stabilizers. They were illegal artificial intelligence control modules, highly restricted tech banned after the Nexus uprising because they could be used to control mines or command battle drones, and there were dozens of them. Before Mason could react, a robotic voice buzzed over the intercom. "Unauthorized access detected at Bay 12. Damn, he closed the crate quickly and stepped back, pretending to just do a routine inspection. A patrol drone floated in, red light scanning. Worker Mason Trent. It beeped. Reason for early access? Routine pressure check, Mason lied smoothly. Had a small leak alarm. The drone scanned again. Paused, then hovered off without saying more. Mason exhaled slowly. Later that day, back in his trailer, Mason stared at the crystal again. The girl had warned him, and she was right. Something dangerous was hidden in Dock 17, and he had just confirmed it. He took the glowing crystal and, after a moment of hesitation, snapped it in half. A soft pulse of light filled the room, and suddenly, a tiny holographic figure appeared on his table. It was her, the alien girl, sitting cross-legged, eyes serious. "If you're seeing this," the message began, "it means you found the truth. My name is Sci, she said. I am not a dock worker, I am not a criminal, and I am not a threat to you. I was created in a lab by the Cathari Syndicate, a hybrid born from human DNA and Zirathi tech, built for infiltration, war, and obedience. But something went wrong." Her voice softened. "Or maybe something went right. Because I didn't turn into what they wanted. I escaped," she continued. "But now they're using Dock 17 to smuggle parts of an AI weapon, something that can wipe out colonies without firing a shot." Saray's hologram looked directly into Mason's eyes. "I can't stop them alone," she said, "but you work here. You can move freely. If you help me, I'll tell you everything I know, and together, we can stop what's coming." The image flickered and vanished. Mason sat still for a long time. Then he stood up, opened a locked drawer, and pulled out his old clearance badge. It was from his early days when he worked in security systems before becoming an engineer. Maybe it was time to dig into the colony's files, to see who was authorizing these fake shipments. That night, he snuck into the main dock control center. Using his old access code, he logged into the internal cargo log. He searched crate ID numbers from Bay 12. What he found chilled him. All the crates had been marked cleared by a supervisor who retired 2 years ago. The authorizations were fake. Someone powerful was covering it up. Then behind him, a soft noise. Mason turned, and there she was again, standing in the shadows, hoodie pulled low. "I saw you broke the crystal," Sci said, stepping forward. Her voice was calm, but her eyes looked tired. "Are you ready to help me?" Mason nodded slowly. "Yes, but I need to know something first," he said. "Why me? Why not go to the authorities?" Sci gave a faint smile, almost sad. "Because they already know," she whispered. "And they're part of it." The room went cold. Mason realized this wasn't just about a few crates. This was bigger, deeper, and far more dangerous than he imagined, and now he was part of it. Previously, Mason discovered illegal AI components hidden in crates at Dock 17. He received a secret hologram from Sci, the mysterious alien girl in the hoodie, who claimed she was a genetically created hybrid meant for war. She warned him. The colony leaders were involved, and now Mason must decide whether to walk away or help the girl who shouldn't exist. Inside the dimly lit security room, Mason stared at Sci in silence. She stood quietly, her head low, waiting for his response. He had 1,000 questions, too many, but only one came out first. "What are you?" Sci took a breath, and for the first time, pulled back her hoodie. Mason froze. Her face was smooth and youthful, like a human teen, but her skin had a soft lavender glow. Thin glowing lines traced along her jaw and temples like alien circuitry. Her eyes were the most striking, large and silver, like twin stars, spinning slowly in place. Not human, not fully alien, but something in between. Beautiful, strange, and impossible. "I was made in a Cathari growth chamber," she said softly. "My DNA is 60% human, 30% Zerithi, and 10% something else, something even I don't understand." Mason stepped back, still processing what he was seeing. "You said they built you for war," he whispered. "What does that mean?" Sci looked him in the eyes. "It means I was created to infiltrate human colonies, learn their systems, and shut them down from the inside." Her voice didn't shake, but her hands did. "They wanted to use me as a weapon that looked innocent, huh?" "Girl, no one would notice." Mason felt cold. "So why didn't you follow your orders?" he asked, unsure if he should trust her. Sci looked away. "They programmed obedience," she said. "But something changed when I touched the first human child." Her voice dropped lower. "He was afraid of me, but I wasn't afraid of him. I felt something, a connection. I ran before they could wipe that feeling from me." Mason leaned on the control panel, trying to breathe. "You're telling me," he said slowly, "that you were sent here to destroy us. And now you want to save us?" Sci nodded once. "Yes, and I know how insane that sounds," she said. "But those I parts in the crates? They're for something called Project Hollow Sky. I've heard whispers," she continued. "They plan to install it in orbit and silently disable all defense systems on this planet, and others no weapons. No ships, just silence and surrender." Mason's voice turned bitter. "And the colony leaders are helping them?" "Not all of them," she replied, "but enough." There was a pause, heavy with fear and confusion. Then Sci stepped forward and placed something on the table, a tiny round disc. "This has every location they've stored parts in," she said, "but it's locked with my biometric code." She held out her hand, glowing lines pulsing across her fingers. "Place it in your system only when I say, or it'll self-wipe." Mason picked up the disc, then looked back at her. "What happens if we get caught?" he asked. "If they find out what we're doing?" Sci didn't blink. "Then they'll erase us both," she said. "But not before they make an example out of you." The next morning, Mason returned to work like nothing happened. He moved crates, checked systems, drank bitter station coffee all while knowing something massive was brewing just beneath the surface. He saw the same officers, the same smugglers, the same fake smiles, and now he wondered which of them knew, Which of them were part of Hollow Sci? Later, in the shadows of a supply corridor, Sci appeared again. She wore clean clothes now, worker uniform top over her hoodie, looking like a normal cargo girl. Only Mason knew better. "Tonight," she whispered, "we get inside the restricted server room." He looked at her nervously. "That room is guarded 24/7, he said. "We'll never get in." Sci smiled faintly. "Let me worry about that," she said. "Just bring your badge." That night, Mason met her behind the fuel tanks near Sector 5. She carried a strange circular device the size of a coin, pulsing with light. "EMP. Bubble," she explained. "Silent, local, 10 seconds only." They crept toward the server room, avoiding camera sweeps and walking like maintenance workers. 2 guards stood outside the door, rifles in hand, bored and half asleep. Sci tossed the coin near them. It rolled and clicked, then released a soft pulse. Both guards collapsed silently, still breathing, just unconscious. Mason stared in shock. "You just temporarily shut down their nervous system," she said calmly. "It wears off in 15 minutes. Inside the server room, Mason inserted the disc, and Sci pressed her glowing palm to the reader. The screen came alive: files, logs, maps, shipment routes, secret orders, communications. Mason read line after line, each one worse than the last. Weapons sent to rebel worlds, data stolen from humans, stations shut down without warning, and Hollow Sci was almost ready. "This is enough to expose them," Mason said. "If we send this to Earth Central—" "No," Sci interrupted. "If we send it from here, they'll trace us in seconds. We need an off-world transmitter deep space signal." Mason clenched his fists. "That's on the old satellite station. No one goes there anymore." Sci nodded. "Then that's where we go next." As they left the room, the guards behind them started to stir. Time was running out, and Mason now understood. This wasn't just about saving her. It was about saving everyone. Previously, Mason discovered that Sci was not a simple alien worker, but a human-alien hybrid built for war. Together, they broke into a secure server room and found terrifying evidence. Project Hollow Sci was real and nearly complete. To expose the operation, they need to reach an old off-world transmitter, but before leaving, Mason needed to confirm one thing. What exactly was hidden inside those mysterious crates? It was nearly midnight when Mason returned to Dock 17. The cold metal of the floor echoed beneath his boots as he walked slowly through the loading bay. Most workers were gone, and only a few cargo bots hummed softly in the distance. The darkness made everything feel heavier, like the silence knew what he was about to do. He walked towards Storage Section B, past stacked containers and shipping units. He'd already seen AI core components before, but Sci had hinted there was more, something alive, something worse. He reached a stack of heavy black crates, all sealed with high-grade locks and marked Class X Experimental. Even reading those words made his chest tighten. He pulled out the code breaker device Sci gave him and placed it on the lock. It blinked red 3 times, then green. The crate hissed open slowly inside. He expected machines, wires, tech parts, but instead, he saw a body. Mason's breath caught in his throat. It was a girl, not human, but close. Her skin was a soft pink with faint blue patterns glowing along her arms. She lay in a cryopod, her eyes closed, tubes in her neck, chest barely moving, alive but frozen, sleeping. On her wrist was a small tag that read, Subject 7, Hybrid Intelligence Host, ready for a I-Sync. Mason stumbled back in horror. They weren't just smuggling machines. They were growing living hosts for the Hollow Sci system, using alien and human DNA to create bodies that could carry illegal AI intelligence. The perfect soldiers, the perfect spies, the perfect control tools. He quickly checked the other crates. 3 more pods. All girls, different skin tones, different designs, but all hybrid, all sleeping, all waiting. This wasn't just tech smuggling. This was biological war preparation. Mason grabbed his scanner and took pictures, recording everything. His hands were shaking. He had been working in this dock for years, moving crates, ignoring details, never questioning, all this time. This horror was happening beneath his feet. "Do you see now?" a voice whispered behind him. Mason turned sharply, and there was Sci standing in the shadows. Her hoodie was down again, her face calm but her eyes heavy with sadness. "You weren't supposed to find them yet," she said quietly, "but now you understand why I can't leave this planet until we stop them." Mason stepped back, his voice hoarse. "They're just kids. Like you." Sci nodded slowly. "They were made like me," she said, "but they didn't escape. They'll wake up soon, and when they do, the AI will take control, and their minds will vanish forever." Mason couldn't believe what he was hearing, and no one in the colony noticed. He asked, angry now. No one cared? "They don't even know," she said. "The syndicate pays off the right people, erases the records, and uses dead zone docks like this one to hide the shipments. The colony leaders who help them think they're shipping cargo. They don't know it's living weapons." Mason stared at the sleeping girls in the cryopods. He clenched his fists. "They're not weapons," he said. "They're people." Sci looked at him with something new in her expression. "Hope. I need you to help me get them out," she said. "We have to transfer these pods to a hidden shuttle in Bay 4. Then send the data to Earth Central from the satellite station." Mason took a deep breath. This wasn't just about blowing the whistle anymore. It was about saving lives. "All right," he said, "but we'll need a distraction and fast transport." "I have both," Sci replied, holding up a small transmitter. "I contacted someone who owes me a favor. A smuggler named Rez. He'll get us off planet, but only if we're at the launch zone in 4 hours. Mason nodded. "Then we move now." They started working quickly. Sci guided the hoverloader while Mason secured the cryopods, covering them with fake shipping covers. The plan was simple. Make it look like a routine late-night transfer. Avoid scanners and reach the launch platform before anyone noticed. But nothing ever goes simple. As they rolled toward Bay 4, 2 patrol bots turned a corner and spotted the unauthorized movement. "Alert! Suspicious cargo activity," one said. "Stand by for inspection. Go!" Sci shouted, slamming the speed lever forward. The loader surged ahead, sparks flying as they sped through the dock, alarms blaring behind them. Mason gritted his teeth. They weren't just carrying boxes now. They were carrying hope. They were carrying a chance to stop the future from falling into silence. Mason and Sci discovered cryopods inside the crates, each holding a hybrid girl designed to be a living host for illegal AI. They now planned to smuggle the pods out and escape to a satellite station where they can send proof to Earth Central. But patrol bots spotted them. Now the race for freedom begins. The hoverloader roared across Dock 17's lower lane. Lights flashed, alarms blared, and red sirens echoed behind them. Mason tightened his grip on the steering panel as the metal floor vibrated beneath the wheels. Behind him, 4 cryopods lay hidden under shipping blankets, each carrying a sleeping hybrid girl. Unaware of the chaos around them, Sci stood on the back of the loader, her hoodie whipping in the wind, eyes sharp and alert. 3 patrol bots on our tail, she called out. "And at least 1 coming from the left tunnel," Mason cursed under his breath. "We won't make it to Bay 4 like this," he said. "Not unless we lose them." "I'll handle it," Sci replied, pulling a small sphere from her belt, another one of her alien tools. She tapped it twice, then threw it behind the loader. The sphere cracked midair and exploded in a flash of blue light. No noise, no flames, just silence. The pursuing bots short-circuited and dropped like metal dolls, twitching as sparks flew from their limbs. "Still one ahead," Mason warned, pointing to the intersection. A larger drone hovered there, now fully armed with a plasma turret. Red eyes glowing, it spoke through the "Unauthorized cargo. Stop now or face neutralization." Sci didn't hesitate. She leaped off the loader, rolled, and ran straight toward the drone. "Sarai!" Mason shouted, but she was already moving fast, too fast for his eyes to follow. With one swift motion, she jumped onto the wall, ran 3 steps across it, and launched herself onto the drone. There was a loud crack, then sparks. The drone dropped to the ground, completely disabled. Sarai landed on her feet. Breathing hard but unharmed, she ran back and jumped onto the loader again. "Go!" she yelled. "No more drones in the way." Mason hit the thrusters, and the loader shot forward, turning sharply into a hidden tunnel that led toward Bay 4. The dark passage smelled of rust and old fuel, unused for years, perfect for a hidden escape. They reached the loading area at last, where a black, unregistered shuttle was already waiting, engines humming low. Standing beside it was Rez, the smuggler Sarai had mentioned. He was tall, covered in grease, with 4 arms and goggles pushed up on his forehead. "You're late," he said, glancing at the pods. "Didn't know we were hauling sleeping." "Beauties, just help us load them," Sarai snapped, her tone sharper than usual. Rez raised his hands, grinning. All right, no questions." Mason helped him carry the pods onto the ship, careful not to jostle them. Each one had a faint heartbeat monitor. If the girls woke too early, they could suffer mental shock. Everything had to be smooth, silent, safe once they were all inside. Mason turned to Sarai. "What about the data?" he asked. "The proof, the server logs?" She pulled the disk from her pocket and held it tight. "I'll send it from the satellite station," she said. "Once we're out of scanner range." "Then let's not waste time," Mason said, taking the pilot's seat. "You're flying?" Rez asked, raising an eyebrow. "I've done it before." Mason muttered, "Just hold on." The shuttle lifted from the bay floor slowly, rising past rusted beams and broken lights. As they reached the upper hatch, Mason's heart pounded. This was the moment. If anyone detected the launch, they could be shot down before leaving orbit. But the hatch opened without a sound. No warning, no patrols, no resistance. Sarai checked the rear cam. "Looks like the alarm systems haven't reached Central Command yet," she said. "We've got a window." Mason didn't wait. He pushed the throttle, and the shuttle blasted into the sky, breaking through the atmosphere in seconds. Stars spread out before them, endless and dark. They were finally free for now. Inside the ship, Sarai sat near the cryopods, watching them with quiet worry. Mason sat beside her, wiping sweat from his forehead. He looked at her for a moment, then asked softly, "Why did you come back for them?" "You could have escaped alone." Sarai didn't answer at first, then she whispered, "Because no one came back for me." Her words hung in the air like cold mist. Mason nodded slowly, understanding more than he could say. They weren't just escaping a mission. They were undoing something evil, one broken crate at a time. As the shuttle moved silently toward the old satellite station, Mason looked at the stars ahead. Somewhere out there, Earth Central was waiting. If they could send the data, everything would change. But deep in the shadows behind them, someone was already watching, and Hollow Sky wasn't going to let them go so easily. Mason and Sarai escaped Dock 17 with 4 cryopods holding hybrid girls, meant to host deadly AI. With help from a smuggler, they launched into orbit, heading for the abandoned satellite station to send proof to Earth Central. But in the silence of space, someone is already watching, and Sarai's past is catching up fast. The satellite station loomed ahead. It was an old communications relay, floating like a dead star above the planet, once used for deep space traffic. Now it was nothing but rusted metal and forgotten wires, perfect for sending a secret message without alerting the syndicate. Mason guided the shuttle slowly toward the docking port. He could feel the tension in the air. Every system beep, every flicker on the radar made his heart skip. They had made it out of Dock 17. But that didn't mean they were safe. Inside the shuttle, Sarai checked the cryopods one last time. "They're stable," she said quietly. "But we don't have much time." Mason glanced at her. "You've been calm this whole time," he said. "But I know you're scared." Sarai didn't look up. I am, she admitted. Because once I send that message, I'll be marked for death, Mason swallowed. I thought you already were. Sarai finally looked at him. There's a difference between hiding and being hunted, she said. Right now I'm hiding. But once Hollow Sky is exposed, they'll come for me. The shuttle docked with a soft clang. Mason grabbed a toolkit and slung it over his shoulder. Sarai followed with the encrypted disk in hand, glowing faintly under the sleeve of her hoodie. Rez stayed behind with the pods, watching their monitors like a hawk. The station was dark, cold, and creaked with every step. Mason's boots echoed in the empty hallway as they made their way to the main transmitter room. Half the systems were offline, and the smell of old oil and burnt circuits filled the air. This place hasn't been touched in years, Mason said. You sure it still works? It will, Sarai said, stepping over a broken cable. This model has a deep space emergency beacon designed to transmit to Earth Central, even from the edge of the galaxy. They reached the control room. Sarai moved quickly, connecting the disk to the mainframe and placing her hand on the biometric scanner. Her glowing skin lit up the terminal as data scrolled rapidly on the cracked screen. Uploading now, she said. All of it evidence, shipping records, DNA logs, and internal messages. Mason stared at the screen. Once they see this, the syndicate's finished. Sarai didn't answer. She was staring at something on the screen, a file that shouldn't have been there. Her face went pale, and her hands froze over the keyboard. What is it? Mason asked, stepping closer. Sarai's lips moved slowly. A file about me. She opened it, and the screen showed a video log in the image. She saw herself as a child, small, sitting inside a white lab room, surrounded by machines. A man in a lab coat stood behind her, speaking to the camera. This subject, he said, is a successful fusion of human empathy and Zerithi aggression. She will be activated on her 10th cycle, at which point her identity will shift, and all external memories will be wiped. Mason watched in shock. They plan to erase you, he whispered. Sarai nodded slowly. Not just erase, she said. Control. She fast-forwarded the footage, and the last line hit her like a blade. She believes she escaped, the voice said, but we left the failsafe inside her core. When Hollow Sky activates, she will return to us, ready and obedient. Silence. Mason backed away slowly. You mean you're one of them? He said, his voice low, confused, afraid. Sarai looked at him, her hands trembling. I didn't. No, she said. I swear I didn't. The terminal beeped upload complete. A signal burst into space, heading toward Earth Central, carrying everything they risked their lives for. But in that same moment, a warning flashed across the console. Failsafe detected. Remote activation in progress. Sarai gasped, falling to her knees. Her eyes flickered silver, and strange alien symbols flashed across her skin. No, she whispered. Not now. Not here. Mason rushed to her side, holding her shoulders. What's happening? They're trying to take control of me, she said, voice shaking. It's the failsafe hidden inside my neural core. Fight it. Mason shouted. You're not theirs anymore. Her breathing turned rough, and her eyes turned blank for a second. Then she screamed. Back on the shuttle, alarms began to ring. Rez stared at the cryopods. They were glowing, pulsing. Oh, he muttered. Something's waking up. In the control room, Mason grabbed a pulse blocker from the toolkit. He pressed it against Sarai's neck and activated it. A shockwave rippled through her body, but her eyes returned to normal. She collapsed into his arms, breathing hard, sweat running down her face. I stopped it, she whispered, barely conscious. But not for long. Mason held her close. You're not just a weapon, he said. You're a person, Sarai. She looked at him with tired eyes. I want to believe that, she said. But I was made to be something else. You chose to fight it, Mason said. That's what makes you different. But deep in space, something had changed. A signal had gone out, not just to Earth, but to the Syndicate. They now knew where Sarai was. and they were coming, asterisk. Saray and Mason uploaded all evidence about Hollow Sky to Earth Central. But Saray discovered a horrifying truth. Her creators implanted a failsafe to control her mind. She resisted, barely. But the moment the upload completed, it triggered a signal. Now the Syndicate knows exactly where they are. Time is running out. Red warning lights flashed across the old satellite station. A proximity alert screamed from the control panel. Saray, still weak from resisting the failsafe, sat on the floor with her back against the wall, breathing hard. Mason stared at the screen in disbelief. 3 ships inbound, he said, voice tight. Fast, armed, and not friendly, Black Syndicate patrols. Saray whispered. They'll kill you, and they'll take me alive. Mason turned toward her. No, he said firmly. We're not giving you to them. He helped her to her feet and handed her a small med spray. She used it quickly. Her color returned slightly, but her movements were slow. She was strong, but the failsafe had left deep damage inside her mind. We have to go, Mason said. We'll take the shuttle. We can outrun them. Saray shook her head slowly. No, they'll chase us across the stars. She said, we have to stop them here. Mason hesitated. We don't have weapons, he said. We have nothing but a junk station and a half-broken shuttle. Saray gave a faint smile. Then we'll use what they don't expect. Truth and choice. Back on the shuttle, Rez was trying to calm the glowing cryopods. The hybrid girls were stirring, reacting to the same signal that had nearly taken Saray. One of the girls, barely 16, opened her eyes and looked around in confusion. Her voice was soft and lost. Where am I? Rez stepped back. Mason? The cargo's waking up. He shouted over comms. Mason and Saray rushed in. The other girls began to open their eyes too, one by one. Blinking in fear, Saray knelt beside them. They don't know who they are yet, she said, but they're like me, and they deserve a chance to be more than tools. She gently took the hand of the first girl and whispered, You're free now. But we need your help. The girls looked around, eyes wide, unsure but calm in Saray's presence. Mason stepped forward. We're going back to Dock 17, he said. We're going to end this where it started. The shuttle turned and began descent. Behind them, the Syndicate ships followed black, sharp, silent like predators. Mason flew low and fast, heading straight for the old landing bay where the smuggling first happened. Rez, now fully involved, armed himself with an old plasma cutter and a grin. Guess I finally get to be the good guy, he muttered as they landed. Saray stood at the front of the cargo hold, the hybrid girls standing behind her. They wore spare worker uniforms, but their glowing eyes and calm strength made them look like warriors. Saray turned to them and said, You were born in darkness, but today you choose your light. The shuttle's doors opened with a hiss, and Mason ran to the broadcast terminal at the dock. He activated the public address system and linked it to the colony's wide-range comms. He pressed the speaker button and handed it to Saray. This is Saray, she said, voice echoing across the colony. You don't know me, but you will. I was created by the Syndicate to destroy this place, to destroy you, but I chose to be something more, and I am not alone. She motioned, and the other hybrid girls stepped into view of the colony cameras. I am not your enemy, she said, but they are. Behind them, Syndicate dropships landed. Black armored figures stormed out, weapons ready, but instead of chaos, people froze. Dock workers, engineers, and guards stared at the strange alien girls and listened. Then someone in the crowd said, I saw her saving that human boy last week. Another said, she worked harder than anyone at this dock. And another, she could have escaped, but she came back for them. Murmurs turned to voices. Voices turned into a crowd. And then the impossible happened. The people stood between Saray and the Syndicate soldiers. Mason joined them, stepping in front of Saray. You want her? He shouted at the black-clad mercenaries. You'll have to go through us. For a long second, no one moved. Then the Syndicate commander gave a signal retreat. They had no authority here anymore. The truth had already spread. Their secret was out. And the people had chosen sides. An hour later, Earth Central confirmed the signal. The syndicate's license to operate was revoked. Their leaders arrested across 3 colonies. The Hollow Sky Project dismantled. And Sarai? She stood at Dock 17 again, no hoodie this time, her face uncovered. Mason stood beside her as the colony governor gave a short speech. This girl, he said, was seen as a threat, but proved to be more human than those who built her. Sarai turned to Mason. You were the first to see me, she said, not as a weapon, but as a person. He smiled. Maybe because I know what it's like to be invisible. The hybrid. Girls were given names, homes, choices, and Dock 17. It became more than a loading bay. It became the place where one human and one alien girl changed the future.